My wealthy, highly educated clients that are high income earners used to fall for the same lie that was costing them their freedom. And here's what they did. Let me talk about one of our clients here. We'll call her Bethany. Now, one of our clients, again, very successful, brilliant, highly educated, brilliant person. It does architecture, all kinds of cool things. And when she first came to us, she's like, Chris, listen, I've got money. I've been a really good saver. She had been taught by her parents to save, be debt-free, do everything like every good girl should. And so she was doing it. She was doing it in her own life. Yet she still could tell that she was feeling trapped. She felt like there was no real freedom. She was putting money away, but it was not bringing anything back to her. And how many of us feel like that, right? How many of us feel like we just set it and forget it? We put it into our retirement plans, lock it away from ourselves, right? And then we try to pay off our mortgages, pay off our debt so we can become debt-free. And we're really we feel like we're entrapped or enslaved until we pay off that debt. And then even after we pay off that debt, then you end up like a lot of my other clients who are debt-free and they even have money in savings, but they're like, well, it's just not enough. And they're like, what do I do? Because again, I'm getting zero income. I'm asset rich and cash poor. This is what was happening with Bethany. She was becoming asset rich, cash poor, especially for her age. She was doing an amazing job as a saver, yet she needed to take it to the next level as a steward. And that's where everything changed for her. So here's the myth that she was buying into. She was buying into the myth that debt was bad and that you should lock your money away in prison. And that has not worked. That has kept every one of our clients trapped. This is how they become asset rich, cash poor. They focus on just trying to pay down all their debt. They get debt free and they say, great, no more payments. I should be free. And then they realize they still have to buy toilet paper. They still have taxes. They still have to deal with paying insurance costs. They still have to eat food at some point. They're not growing their own gardens and making their own, weaving their own cloth to make clothes. No, they're not doing all that stuff. They still have to live. And that's what they realized, that even though they're debt free, that was the minority of the rest of their expenses. They still had to do that. And so what do? They keep locking away in that money prison called a 401k or an IRA. Problem is, you're not supposed to touch it till you're at least 59 and a half, otherwise they slap you with penalties and taxes. It's like asking mom and dad for the car keys to the car that you worked and slaved for all these years, and then they still tell you you have to ask for permission. That's what the government does when you lock them up in these retirement plans. And understand, the wealthy don't use these retirement plans, right? This is what high income earners do that are usually upper middle class typically. They might use these, but that's the mistake. And that's what's keeping people broke for so long. I even had one client, and this might blow you away, but he was 52 years old. He was saving $200,000 a year. He was already up to $3 million by this point, and adding $200,000. And his financial advisor says, well, if you keep this up, if you want to live on a $500,000 a year lifestyle, this guy didn't need $500,000. He just wanted more than enough to feel beyond free. And so he was going for $500,000 a year. And because the financial advisor says, well, you're 52, well, you locked him up in these retirement plans, you're not supposed to touch him until you're 59 and a half, so really you gotta wait anyways. But if you keep saving the way you are, and hopefully the market doesn't go down at all in the next 13 years, you might be able to do it then, assuming the market returns well enough. Otherwise, you might be waiting longer. Think about it. This guy has $3 million at age 52. He's saving $200,000 a year that he's adding to these accounts. And then his financial advisor says it's not enough. Doesn't that seem ridiculous to you? It is, because he was hoping to get him up to $18 million. And then if you pull off 3% of $18 million, that's just over $500,000 a year. The problem with this though, however, is one, you have to still pay taxes on it, which means you have less than $500,000 a year to live on. And then two, in 13 years, what's a $500,000 going to be worth, right? What is it going to be worth? Is he going to need $600,000 or $700,000 by that point, or probably closer to $1 million by that point, because about every 15 years, inflation doubles. And so you think about that, it's like he had to keep going and going and going. I told him, it's like, listen, you don't have to do that. And this is what, same thing that happened with Bethany and same thing that happened with him. It's like, no, let's get your money out of those prisons. Stop saving it in those stupid places where your financial advisor gets paid, but you don't, right? Let's do this instead. And so we started looking at alternative investments. We started looking at things like, hey, you could leverage debt. In this guy's case, he didn't have to. With Bethany, we talked about leveraging debt in a good, productive way. So for the other guy, I just said, listen, if you got $3 million, you make 10% a year, you're already making $300,000 a year this year. It's not $500,000, but if you take that $300,000 you're making, combine it with your $200,000, that's $500,000. You add that adds another $50,000 a year. So now you're at $350,000. Combine your $200,000 with the $350,000, you have $550,000. Now you're at $405,000, and you can get the gist. In 4 years, he has $500,000. He doesn't have to worry as much about inflation because he's doing it so fast, he can get there to this $500,000 goal. So needless to say, his financial advisor was fired, right? In Bethany's case, Bethany knew she had a little bit longer of a ride. And so instead we said, you could go and pay cash for like real estate properties or other real estate investments that she did. And some investments you have to pay cash, but for the properties that she's buying, I said, listen, you can get it with a mortgage. Leverage that, because if you put a 20% down payment on this investment property here, the other 80% is with the mortgage company. Here's the good news. If you buy a $250,000 mortgage or a $250,000 property, that's a $50,000 down payment versus putting the full $250,000. So now you can buy 5 of these properties. But here's what's cool, because now you're able to buy with that same $250,000, $1.25 million of properties. What happens if, say, all those properties appreciate by 10%, which she had properties appreciated by at least that much, but say it's just 10%. So now with that 10%, that $1.25 million worth of properties now becomes almost worth $1.4 million. And this is the better part, because it appreciates $125,000, right? The cool thing is this, is that $125,000 didn't mean she made 10%. It's actually made her 50% because she did a fifth of a down payment, 20% down payment. Well, now you get this 5-time amplifier on the rate of return when it appreciates. So because remember, she only put $250,000 down, but gained $125,000 of equity, that's a 50% return on her $250,000. Versus she bought a $1.25 million property, cool, it appreciates 10%, she makes $25,000. Not as impressive as $125,000, is it? And that does include cash flow and tax benefits and everything else. And so that's the great thing, is that, you know, even though there's been ups and downs in the ride, like she even had an investment that didn't do well, still, because she had all these other investments, they were cash flowing for her, making her thousands of dollars every month, and she's earning hundreds of thousands of dollars, adding to her net worth, in some cases, even within a year. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands every single year, all because of this leverage. That is what the wealthy do that so many high income earners don't get, and they remain slaves forever because they buy into what brokers, you know, financial advisors that are broker than you and I are, those people keep teaching them, and it just doesn't work. So would you like your money to start working harder for you so you don't have to work so hard for your money, and actually figure out what's the best way to get your money out to create passive income right now? Go to our website, moneyripples.com/consulting. You can actually go book a call to become work optional, figure out how you can create a work optional blueprint in your situation. Go to moneyripples.com right now.